Hi there, I'm Debbie Davis, and this is Mind Your Own Business TV. If it's your business, we're talking about it right here every week. And today we have a subject that's near and dear to my heart. It is financial literacy and kids. And I have two guests with me today. My first one is Rhonda Hebert. She is an assistant vice president and branch manager at Biddeford Savings Bank in the Kennebunk branch.
Correct.
And you also work with her. You are Chris Doiron. You are a VP and a business banking officer at the Kennebunk branch of Biddeford Savings Bank.
That's right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You know, I do my banking, most of it at Biddeford Savings Bank, and I was on the website and I saw this little thing on there that said, we teach financial literacy to children or something like that. And I went, really? Clicked on it and had to find out more. I firmly believe that we have to do more in the area of teaching our kids about money, about business, so that it better prepares them when they leave school to go out into the world and to be a success.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Before we talk about that, though, let's talk about you guys. Rhonda, how long have you been in banking?
I actually had one of my first jobs other than scooping ice cream in the earlier years of high school. When I was a junior in high school, I took a summer teller position in New Hampshire. And that was back in the very early 80s. And since then, I have been in banking at multiple different banks in New Hampshire, credit unions as well, and have most recently been with Biddeford Savings for approximately 14 years.
Fantastic.
Yes.
How about you, Chris?
I've been in banking it's been 14 years and have been with Biddeford Savings Bank all that time. And for me, it was, I was in college at the time looking for a summer job. There was an opportunity to be a teller at Biddeford Savings. I started there and realized it was a good place to work and there were opportunities that opened up. I had the opportunity to learn more about commercial banking and decided to go that route and have been pretty much in the commercial banking side of things for maybe 12 of those 14 years.
That's interesting. I worked at a bank as well in the 80s, and it got bought out by Key, and we worked there in municipal lending. Very fun, exciting part of the bank.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But we are here today to talk about financial literacy and kids, and tell us what you guys are doing. You've got some kind of a course?
Yes.
Talk about it.
Well, basically, the bank offers materials from K through 2, and it's a program called Saving with Mandy and Randy. And it basically introduces money to children by way of different coins. It talks about how money is involved with pretty much everything you do in your life, talking about starting to save early and recognizing different forms of money. My involvement has been more on the high school level. The name of that class is called How to Do Your Banking, and that really gets into the difference in banking products, checking accounts, savings accounts, loans, why credit is so important, and the ways to build good credit. Also gets into lending and the appropriate ways to apply for loans, and is very inclusive.
When
and it's
did
been
it
great.
start?
Well, my particular involvement, the bank has been involved with a company called CMARC who provides the materials, and the bank pays for all of the materials and then helps facilitate the schools with the teaching of the programs. When we opened our branch in Kennebunk about 3.5 years ago, my kids were in the Kennebunk school system, and believe it or not, one of my children, my oldest one, had to do a project, and they had to make a presentation. And she had no idea what she was going to do.
About money?
No, it could be anything.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the kids talked about, how to make the best pizza, things like that. And
I need to know that.
and basically, I just made the suggestion to her, why don't you teach the kids how to balance a checkbook? And she's like, oh, I don't want to do that, Mom. Everybody will hate it. And I said, honestly, you'd probably be surprised. And from that point, she did the presentation. One of her teachers ended up contacting me and said, how can we make this bigger and better?
Wow.
So that's pretty much where my involvement began. And one of the teachers there said we need to make this happen. Since that time, the program has actually become part of the Kennebunk High School curriculum. So it is now a class.
It is.
Yes, that students take prior to graduation.
That is fantastic. Now, this saving with Mandy and Randy sounds so cute.
It is really cute. I myself have not taught those particular classes, but we have many employees at the bank that do. And basically, one of our employees goes in, they sit down with the kids, they bring them piggy banks, they show them all the different denominations of money and coin. The teachers facilitate different activities where the kids start saving for things, and we offer them the ability to open their first account and help them make their first deposit.
Oh, that's cute.
So
That's cute.
it's a lot of fun.
Did you ever have an account when you guys were young?
Yes.
Did you have a savings account?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
did too.
Yeah. Started at a young age.
It was a very neat feeling to go into the bank with your, $1.26 and your little booklet or whatever,
Yeah.
and put your money away. But that kind of dwindles off, doesn't it? If it doesn't
does.
stay with the kids, I think, through the school system.
Well, so much of it probably, I bet we could all agree that it probably started with our grandparents. Our grandparents opened that account for us, and, they'd deposit their 50 cents and we'd bring our 50 cents, and that's sort of how the story begins. And then something happens, I think, as we start going through our school years where it's not first and foremost in our mind.
Right.
And believe it or not, in my opinion, banking has changed so much, from the early 80s up till now. Everything is so technology-based, so the little booklets don't
That's
exist, and all those hands-on tools that the kids had aren't really present anymore. So now, really, if we want to show our kids how banking works, we give them an iPad
That's
and have them
true.
sign on to online banking and check things out, or even
Which
a
is the
telephone.
best way to do it.
Yeah, or even a telephone. So things have definitely changed. The mechanisms are there; they're just different.
Well, I'm talking with Rhonda Hebert and Chris Doiron.
That's right. Yep.
So sorry. And Chris, now you are involved with the junior achievement end of things, right? Tell us about junior achievement.
Sure. So Junior Achievement is a worldwide nonprofit organization, and obviously more of a local level. There's a local board of directors. There's several in this state. I do participate on the Northern York County Board. And the primary responsibilities there involve delivering the Junior Achievement programs, coordinating with volunteers, coordinating fundraising efforts. Fundraising is a critical element to be able to provide these programs. But bottom line, Junior Achievement as an organization promotes financial literacy, its work readiness skills, its entrepreneurship skills as well. And there are prepackaged curriculums or programs that can be administered to as young as kindergarten age students up through high school. And these programs typically involve a kit, looks like a little suitcase, and in that little suitcase is all the material a volunteer needs to go into the classroom and teach the curriculum. And the curriculums usually involve 5 to 6 45-minute sessions. So as a volunteer, I might coordinate with a teacher and say I'll come in once a week on a Thursday afternoon, and we'll do that for 5 or 6 weeks until I've delivered the entire program. And it's pretty interesting. Obviously, the subject matter is different, depending on the age
Depending
level.
on the ages, right.
Yeah, of course. And in addition to that normal prepackaged curriculums for volunteers to go into the classrooms, there are a couple of other pieces to Junior Achievement that I've been involved in. One is they do have job shadow days. The bank has invited students to come into the bank for a job shadow, which is pretty neat. In my experience volunteering with that, it's involved the kids doing some mock loan applications. They can pretend that they own a business and they're going to get a loan for a business, and that becomes fun. They get a real sense as to all the pieces that go into something like that. And another fun thing that I've been involved in that's a Junior Achievement event is called the Titan Challenge. And it's an annual event. geared towards high school students across the state, where high schools will send teams of 3 students, up to 3 students, to compete on a state level in a business simulation. And what that looks like is it's almost like a game. I'm sure many of the kids view it as a game, where it's computer software based, and these 3 students are tasked with running a business. They're making a fictional product,
Okay.
and they get to set certain criteria, such as building plant capacity, how many units do they want to produce, setting a marketing budget.
That's pretty advanced.
Absolutely. So they have some time in their classrooms to practice with the software, and then when the big day comes, there are different locations across the state where the high school students will come. UNE has hosted, University of Southern Maine has hosted. So we'll go there, and my role or other volunteer roles are mentors for the kids. So you've got a team of 3, and each team of 3 should be set up with a business mentor or volunteer to help them, me to share my experiences with the real business world, and oftentimes they know more than I do.
We love it when that happens. Well, let me ask you, junior achievement now, I know that when I was in school, way back when, we had it in high school, but I did not have any of it in the lower grades. How frequent is this being utilized in school?
It's really, that's driven by teachers and volunteers. So the request to have junior achievement brought into a school or a specific classroom needs to come from either the teacher. So a teacher may catch wind of junior achievement from some source, or maybe from a friend or a colleague who's brought it into their classroom, and they say, hey, I want it in my classroom as well. So that teacher would go to somebody on the junior achievement board or through the organization and just put a request in to say, I want junior achievement in my classroom. And then it's up to the junior achievement organization or a board to find a volunteer to match with that teacher.
And who can the volunteers be?
The volunteers can be anyone who is passionate about financial literacy, these things that junior achievement stands for, teaching in general, sharing their expertise.
But what if they don't know anything about money or junior achievement?
They don't need to.
They don't. And
No.
why is that?
Because the kits that I referred to with the prepackaged curriculum is so thought out, spells it out, from A to Z, exactly what the steps are for you to be able to facilitate delivering that lesson. It's all spelled out for
So
you.
anybody who has the time could actually do this.
Sure. It's time, desire to teach, to be in front of students, and it's certainly easy for a volunteer to spend some time reviewing that curriculum ahead of time to get comfortable with it.
I love this. I totally love this. Now, you've got a guide that you bring, and it is how to do your banking.
Yes.
And you sent me a copy of it. Boy, is it involved.
It is, and there's both a teacher guide and a student guide. As I said, the How to Do Your Banking is more on the high school level, so we've really spent the most time with sophomores, juniors, and seniors. The program actually starts, and again, there's a lot of creativity on the teacher's part where they can take the items that are in the handbook and really tweak them to their own teaching styles. In Kennebunk, when we first started this program, the teacher thought of the game of life.
It's a great game.
It is. yeah, if anybody still plays it. But that being said, what we did is the first part of the program, the students are actually charged with thinking about what it is they want to do for a career, where they want to live, and they have to do some research and investigating. So for instance, if a student decides that they want to be an architect in Maryland, they need to find out what the average pay is for an architect, how much it costs to live in Maryland, and they develop a budget based on rent. Do they have a car payment? Do they have insurance? And what they do is they formulate a budget, and then the life game comes in where the teacher at this particular time handed them different life chips. For instance, you had a car accident on your way home from work.
Oh, when
So,
life throws you a curve.
yes. So how does that affect your budget, and how are you going to sustain your living?
Yeah.
Is your insurance going to go up? Do you have enough money saved to allocate for those types of changes? It would be really nice if our life just stayed on this nice even playing
Boy,
field.
wouldn't it?
But that's not always the case. So there's some creativity that can be involved, or you can stick directly to the program where, yes, you talk about budgets, and then you talk about, one of the examples is a pizza. And, one slice dictates which parts of your life, and how do all of those pieces fit together so you can form an entire whole livelihood. It talks about credit and the importance of making good decisions at an early age. As you and I probably know, one bad decision, one late payment could follow you for a good
For
7
a
years.
long time.
And the reality of it is that when you get into as a junior and senior in high school, your mailbox gets filled with credit card offers.
That's true.
And all these things. So it's really bringing to the forefront how important it is, not just because you get an envelope with a credit card offer to sign up.
Yeah. It's big.
It is.
It's kind of cruel, actually, to do to that age group, because they're thinking, woo, I got a credit
Yeehaw.
card, let's go.
Yeah.
And they're not even thinking about how to pay it back.
Sure.
Right.
I have a year or next.
And it doesn't just happen in the mail. I mean,
Mom will pay it.
Yeah.
exactly. Or we all know what happens at the register when you check out. I mean, those retail clerks are very good at saying, oh, if you open a credit card today, you'll get 25%
I
off.
know.
And so begins the cycle of credit at a very early age.
They still do it to me. I mean, and I say, no, thank you. Oh, and they get to whip out the benefits. So, well, if you do, you'll have this and that. And that's okay, thank you, but no, thank you. And,
Oh,
are
it
you
does
sure?
work
Are
for
you
some.
sure? Because, it's like,
yeah.
no, thank you. I'm looking at something in the manual here that you alluded to earlier. You've got to forecast your monthly income. I mean, this is interesting that you even talk about income before taxes. How many kids react, shockingly to the fact that if I make $10 an hour, you mean I'm not going to bring home $10 an hour?
Oh yeah, it is. It's very shocking, and part of that is to also talk with them about how to use those pre-tax dollars for saving, and the importance of making good decisions prior to the whole tax piece. We partnered with a financial investment advisors in Kennebunk a company called Invest, and we sort of expanded the whole piece of this financial literacy to talk to the kids about mutual funds and stocks and bonds and investing early. It sounds like such a big thing to think about, but we all see on the commercials, $20 at age 18 can mean great retirement at some point, and it's very true. So we talk to the kids about that.
And I say to myself, why didn't somebody tell me this before? I wasn't
Yeah.
paying attention.
Right.
It's interesting, too, with the taxes. I volunteered in, I believe it was a second or third grade junior achievement curriculum, and I was shocked that at that level, I was teaching the element of paying taxes. It was a very simple, here's a business, here's the product it sells so that the business makes money, which then pays you, the employee or the worker that was
Right.
making the product. And I was passing out money to them. Okay, it's payday. And then comes the time where I slap on the badge of tax collector.
Oh, dear.
And the eyes light up. What do you mean I have to give back some of that money? So Junior Achievement is also covering that at what I think is quite an early age as well.
That is
And
fantastic.
to be quite honest with you, that's the part that actually I find the best learning tool is the kids say, oh, and they ask questions. A lot of them have family members or parents that actually work in some of these lines of employment, and they go, oh, that's what my dad does. I didn't know that's what he did all day. And the conversation prompts such great learning tools. So oftentimes you think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to, fulfill 45 minutes worth of teaching time. That just seems like so long. Well, the conversation actually get you probably through,
Yeah.
a quarter to maybe a half, if you're lucky,
Yeah.
of that scheduled program for the day, because you want the kids to participate.
Yeah.
They're making those connections right in the classroom.
Absolutely.
Oh, I just love that. I just love that. Now, when it comes to savings, are they really doing it? Once you're teaching it to them, now, for instance, in the high school, and they're learning more about saving, are they actually trying to do it? I mean, a lot of kids nowadays in high school are working.
Right.
Are they trying to put nest eggs aside? Are they trying to build that savings?
I won't say that that's first and foremost in their mind. However, just by giving them a few of these tools and bits of information about different banking products and how to manage your money wisely, maybe they're not saving so much at the beginning.
Right.
But just the fact that they're learning how to manage their money and picking different types of accounts that work best for them. And when I say that, a lot of the questions come up about, checking accounts, and we live in a debit card society. Nobody writes checks anymore. Everybody uses
Hardly
a debit
ever.
card.
Hardly ever.
Right. So we talk a lot about, when you do open your first account, being smart about it and keeping a register of those debit card transactions, the difference between debit and credit, and what that all means. And the kids are very interested. They want to know. They really don't want to make mistakes. They want to learn correctly.
Exactly.
And by providing these types of tools and information, I think we're doing them a huge service in letting them know. As you and I probably know, we got our first banking account from Grammy and Grampy.
Yep.
But yet when it came time to spend it, we really didn't know the best ways to handle that.
That's true.
So it just plants the seed and hopefully helps them make decisions wisely versus by mistake.
Yeah.
Now, Chris, in the junior achievement programs, do you guys go over, for instance, when they're teaching the entrepreneurship end of it, are you going over where they get their initial funding?
Yeah, that's part of it. A lot of that entrepreneurship subject matter comes at the junior high or high school level. And there's all pieces to it. A lot of it is real life example. We'll pick a well-known brand or a well-known business, and part of the curriculum is talking about how that business got started, where that first money came from. Maybe it was, some of it is they couldn't get the money from a bank, or it had to be
Many
come
times,
from,
yeah.
absolutely, it came from a friend or it came from a family member who
Yeah.
stuck their neck out and loaned me some money.
Right.
And then lo and behold, something that started so small or in the garage of a mom and dad's house, blossomed into something so big. So those are great stories, with some real life companies that the kids really, I think,
Are
find
we
interesting.
talking about Microsoft here?
Well, that's coming to mind. Microsoft, Apple,
Right.
those type of companies, sure. And the kids can relate. They're such well-known companies.
They certainly can. Now, let's talk about the day when the kids get to go to the banks to actually see what goes on there.
That's probably my favorite part, because we spend so much time talking about how things do work at the bank. And last year we had, actually the last 2 years, we've had kids from Kennebunk High School. We put together an agenda for the day. The school buses them over to the main office of our bank, and we spend a good 4 or 5 hours with the kids. They visit each one of our departments. They see the inside workings of the bank. Their favorite part is to go into the vault.
Yes.
Yes, see actually what it's like to hold, $10,000 in your hands, and, that makes them very happy.
I have to say, to a young child, or even if it's in high school, to hold $10,000 in your hand, that they've done more than many adults have done. You know
Well-
what I mean? In that respect.
Absolutely, and the interesting part is when you say to them, what do you think you can buy with $10,000? Oh, the range of answers is huge, and you and I both know 10,000 doesn't get you very much anymore.
Not much, no.
But yeah, and part of this is to give kids a sense of reality about how much things cost and how long it takes to save that kind of money. again, the younger kids think $10,000 can buy you a house and, all of these wonderful things. And you and I both know you can barely buy a car. So that part, their eyes, open wide. What do you mean? That's not enough. And it's not just the younger kids. I mean, the older kids have and I hate to say warped, but a miscalculated sense of money. So this truly is eye-opening.
Well, some of the feedback that we have here in regard to going to the bank, one person says, I like the fact that we went to the bank to see how they manage money and how the devices worked. And it was very cool to hold the money in my hands.
Yeah.
You can't beat that, not at all. So you do this once a year?
Well, again, depending on
Once a class?
right, what the availability of the school is, and to be able to, provide the transportation over to the bank and so on and so forth. It definitely takes some organization.
Right.
But as I said, we've done it for the past 2 years with Kennebunk High School. Last year we did it with Wells High School. They had a group of students that came over to the bank, and we asked them to prepare some questions in advance for each of the departments. They do a question and answer with the president at lunch. We provide them lunch, and their questions.
That must be fun.
It is, yeah. Their questions are all over the place, from security issues to well, what do you give for bonuses, if that even exists. They're wide ranges of questions, but they're all great questions, and it's exactly what we need the kids to do, is to start talking about it and learning.
Now, Chris, in Junior Achievement, do you have any field trips where you go to actual businesses with the kids?
I haven't had any experience with that. We've had, much like you're talking about the job shadow through the program Rhonda's delivered, we've had job shadow days where we've had students from Biddeford come into the bank and do similar things as Rhonda mentioned. One of the neat things we got a chance to do through the Junior Achievement job shadow was, as I mentioned earlier, the mock loan application.
Right.
Where they get to pretend they own a business and they're going to get a loan for it.
I would love to see
becomes
that in
fun.
action.
Yeah, the kids have fun with that.
It is, and the great part about that is, Chris and I have both done some volunteering with that at the bank, where kids come in, and it's sort of that middle-aged group of kids, middle school kids, 6th through 8th grade, where they're trying to think about what it is that they want to do when they grow up, so to speak. Some of us are still trying to figure it out. But that being said, it gives them the opportunity to see different careers, and allows them to think about, oh, maybe I do want to take some business-related classes in high school, or maybe I want to look into this type of a career, and what do I need to do to prepare myself for that? So it gives them a really early
Right.
focus
Sure.
to start thinking about those things.
Yeah, and even some of the junior high and high school level programs that I've volunteered to teach, aside from actually physically going into one of the local businesses, we do a lot of real life examples. Here's this business, here's how it's operated, a lot of exposure so they can see how different businesses work. And then we get into, okay, what kind of skills do you think you need to be able to be in that industry or in that line of work? And as Rhonda mentioned, it really kind of opens their eyes to the opportunities that are out there. In a recent junior high class that I was teaching in, a lot of it was on career mapping. So here's some high growth career opportunities in science and technology. And then, we get into, okay, you're in junior high today. What can you start doing today to get there? And what courses or what opportunities, or they may not realize it, but something they think of as a simple summer job to make some money to get by, it may have some real value to them in terms of helping with the skills to have that career goal in the future.
And it teaches them that you just don't fall into a high-paying career.
Right.
You have to work towards it. I mean, some people do, I suppose, depending on how they, grew up and the experiences that they've had. But most people, you have to work towards something, and that's valuable.
Right. I thought it was kind of funny because in that class I was teaching, it was about the